He sat quietly in seat 31A, near the very back where turbulence hits hardest, where legroom tightens, where people glance but rarely greet. A tall black man in a charcoal sweater, travel-worn duffel at his feet, fingers tapping softly like someone used to waiting, used to being watched, judged, measured before being spoken to. His name was Dr. Preston Carter, billionaire founder of Carter Aerosystems, the man whose company built the avionics, guiding thousands of jets across the skies. But today, no one knew him, and he wanted it that way. He boarded economy on purpose, not for humility, but for truth. There were rumors about this airline, complaints ignored, bias unaddressed. Passengers treated differently depending on how they looked, spoke, dressed, or didn't. Preston didn't come to travel, he came to witness. From the moment he sat, the energy shifted. The man beside him adjusted his headphones as if Preston's presence distorted the airwaves. A woman across the aisle stared, then slid her purse inward, away from him. The flight attendant, blonde, crisp uniformed, paused at his boarding pass longer than the others. "Sir, economy is through the rear jet bridge," she said, even though he was already inside. Her smile was paper-thin, polite enough to maintain deniability, sharp enough to injure confidence. Preston simply nodded, eyes calm, absorbing everything. He noticed how she offered sparkling water to a businessman in a suit, yet handed warm top water to the black college student 2 rows ahead. He noticed when she skipped Preston during snack service, doubling back to others twice before acknowledging his raised hand. "We're short on premium snacks today," she said, though he could see the full tray 10 inches from her elbow. The pilot announced light turbulence approaching. Seat belts clicked like warning bells. Preston steadied himself, and while the plane hummed, memories resurfaced. Boardrooms where he was mistaken for security, hotels where staff asked for proof he belonged, investors who assumed he was the assistant to his own company. He had fought for respect with brilliance, patience, strategy. But today, something different was coming. He could feel it, like a pressure drop before a storm. Then, mid-flight, a tremor rippled through the cabin, not turbulence, but fear. The pilot's voice cracked over the speaker. "Ladies and gentlemen, we've encountered a navigation fault. Stand by." The cabin fell silent. Preston recognized that tone. It wasn't routine, it was uncertainty. And he knew exactly what kind of failure sounded like that. He'd designed the original operating software years ago. Passenger chatter built like rising wind. A mother clutched her sleeping son. A man cursed under his breath. Preston's unbuckled slowly, aware of the eyes, aware of the associations people would make. A black man standing during a crisis. He walked to the front, and the flight attendant blocked him instantly, arms stiff like a barrier. "Sir, return to your seat. This cabin doesn't need interference." Preston locked onto her gaze, steady, unshaken. "I can fix your navigation failure. I developed the firmware this aircraft uses." She smirked. "And I'm the Queen of England," she sneered, loud enough for half the plane to hear. Laughter rippled, uncomfortable but present. Then the cockpit door burst open. The first officer, face pale and sweating, called desperately into the cabin. "Does anyone have experience with FMS override or avionics calibration?" Silence swallowed the aircraft whole. Preston raised one hand. The room shifted like gravity reversed. The first officer's eyes widened. "You're Dr. Preston Carter." And in that moment, realization cut through the cabin like a blade. Every assumption, every prejudice, every dismissal, cracking loudly in the minds of those who had judged him. Preston stepped forward. The attendant froze, voice brittle. I didn't know who you were." Preston's response was soft, controlled, but devastating. "Respect shouldn't require recognition. And with that, legally authorized under FAA Emergency Clause 14121, Preston Carter, once ignored, now needed, walked toward the cockpit to save the very people who looked past him minutes ago. He entered not as a passenger, but as the only hope on board. The pilots stepped aside with trust they hadn't shown before, not because of his skin, but because of his skill. Preston slid into the left seat like he belonged there, fingers sweeping across controls he once designed on blueprint paper years before anyone believed in him. Warnings flashed red like heartbeats. The FMS was looping, GPS desynchronized, autothrottle unresponsive, altitude drift rising dangerously. He breathed slow, methodical, surgeon steady. "We'll reroute through manual vector mapping," he instructed. The captain blinked. "We've never done that mid-air." Preston didn't break focus. "You've never done it with me." Outside, thunderheads towered like mountains, bright with lightning veins. The plane pitched. Screams rippled down the aisle. Preston's hands danced across the panel, overriding code line by line, restoring guidance manually through fail-safe architecture that only existed because he insisted years ago when others refused funding. His calm against the storm felt cinematic, like history balancing on two fingertips. The plane steadied. Altitude leveled. The storm parted like curtains drawn back by invisible hands. Passengers exhaled collectively. Tears, prayers, disbelief. When they landed minutes later, smooth as silk on runway concrete, a roar of applause erupted. Camera flashes like lightning now replaced with gratitude. The flight attendant approached trembling, apology written across her face. "Dr. Carter, if I had known—" Preston cut her, gently, firmly. "You must treat people with dignity, regardless of what you know." She broke. Some cried, not because he saved the plane, but because he exposed them to themselves. Reporters swarmed the gate. Passengers formed a circle like witnesses to something holy. Preston didn't grandstand or rage. He simply said the truth out loud for everyone to hear. A man should not need wealth or status to earn basic respect. Humanity must come first. His voice resonated through the terminal, through headlines hours later, through millions watching worldwide, proof that a black man could walk into a room underestimated and walk out having saved everyone inside it. Preston Carter boarded economy unseen, unheard, undervalued. He walked off the plane a legend, not because of who they thought he was, but because of who he always had been. And now the world had no choice but to see him.
If this story moved you, if it opened your eyes, challenged your assumptions, or reminded you how often brilliance is overlooked, then don't let it end here. Stories like this aren't just entertainment, they're mirrors. They reflect the quiet reality too many people live through every day. A black man is questioned for standing up. A woman is doubted because of her voice. A child is underestimated because of their zip code. Respect becomes conditional, given only after someone proves themselves worthy, instead of being offered freely because they exist. So I ask you to think, who around you is being dismissed right now? Who sits quietly in 31A in your world, unseen, undervalued, underestimated? Maybe it's someone at school, someone at work, someone you walk past without noticing. Your comment could be the voice they never hear in real life. Share what this story meant to you. Share a moment when someone misjudged you, or when you realized you misjudged someone else. Real change doesn't start with policy. It starts with awareness, with conversation, with reflection, with us. If you felt something in your chest listening to this, if you believe every person deserves dignity before title, before wealth, before recognition, share this video. Let it reach someone who needs the reminder. And if you want more stories like this, more truth, more depth, more voices that refuse to be silent, subscribe, turn on notifications, and join this movement. Because the world doesn't change when we look away. It changes when we speak, when we stand up, when we refuse to ignore injustice ever again. Your voice matters. Use it.